Okay then, we're in. And this is the Computing Centre at CERN. I mean, really, this is the brain of the Large Hadron Collider. Now, it's really loud in here. It's not a place where I can easily do interviews or give you a live commentary, so I'm recording this afterwards. But I just wanted you to see what it looks like and hear what it sounds like. When you walk through these kind of little corridors here, I can't tell you how hot it is. The hot air is just blasting you from both sides. It's like being in a little oven. And of course it's so loud, I mean, you can hardly hear yourself think. Now, this is really the heart of what CERN calls the grid, which is a network of computer systems and centres around the world that's used to process the insane amount of data produced by the Large Hadron Collider. The LHC produces about 600 million particle collisions a second, and although they don't keep everything, I mean, that would be crazy, they just keep a tiny 100,000 snapshots per second. That's still a fair amount, obviously. And that means they're storing they're storing over 1,000 megabytes per second, and it makes its way here to the data center. Now, the data doesn't just need storing, it needs processing, and that's where the grid comes in. This center is the start of it all, and they call it Tier 0. It's the Tier 0 center. Then there are Tiers 1, you get Tier 2s, and you get Tier 3s, and they're scattered all over the world. Together, they allow thousands of physicists to access all this information and, more importantly, crunch all the data, process it, make sense of it all. And I mean, just the Tier 0 center here alone does 1 million jobs a day, and it can transfer up to 10 gigabytes of data every second. And I mean, these are just numbers, obviously, but when you think about it, they're pretty high numbers. Now, as you can see here, some of these banks, some of these racks of computers are kept in kind of these glass enclosures. I didn't actually ask about that, but I'm assuming it's all sealed so that it's more easy to keep air conditioned and to keep cool. Cooling this place is just so important. And in fact here, you see these big blue towers? I mean, that's part of the air conditioning system. I'm pretty sure they told me if the cooling fails, everything gets switched off very quickly. Otherwise they have a bit of a meltdown. I do love that you sort of have these little keyboards and computers on the end of the racks too. I mean, it's obvious that you would, but it somehow amuses me. I'm not sure why. I mean, I sometimes think the cables behind my computer and television are complicated. When I see this place, I feel like my head's going to explode. Now we've come upstairs, the centre's actually spread over 2 floors, and here we see the cartridges or tapes that a lot of the information's stored on. One of the storage units here for the tapes was actually being worked on while I was there, so the door was open and I could have a look inside. Now, often when the information on these tapes is accessed, there's kind of this robotic sort of arm device type thing that scurries around the racks and pulls out the tapes. And whenever I wasn't filming, it would go whizzing around doing all this cool stuff. But as soon as I started filming, it all kind of stopped and I had to wait for ages. But I was determined to show you one in action, and eventually I managed to get this. You get the idea. Okay, now we've come up to a little sort of room where you can see over the centre. This is the ground floor part of the centre again. You can see how high the ceiling is. That's actually not a good thing. Modern data centres actually have low ceilings. I think it's because it's easier to cool the rooms if the rooms are smaller. But this was built at a time when, well, computers were a lot bigger. It's actually, in a lot of ways, the building in the room's quite outdated for the purpose, but they're still using it. I think at CERN they prefer spending their money on new kit rather than new buildings. And it's still doing a pretty good job. And here's one last thing I want to show you. It's actually outside the computer centre. They call this the CERN Animal Shelter for Computer Mice. It's a bit of a joke, but it's where the computer mice go to retire when they're no longer in use. Is mice the plural or is it mouses? It must be mice. Anyway, there it is. It's a bit of fun. Now, as I said, it was remarkably loud in the centre, so it wasn't really easy to do interviews. But I did do interviews with people that work here at the computer centre. You're going to be able to see them very soon here on Computerphile. Sean, who I work with, is going to be having all that, going through it all, editing it together soon. So stay tuned for that. Also, while we were at CERN, we made a music video for the 60 Symbols channel. If you haven't seen that yet, go and have a look. It was a bit of fun. And I also recorded something about the corridor where the World Wide Web was developed. And that video is already on Computerphile. So you can go and check that out too. There's so much to look at. Thanks for watching this, and we hope to see you soon for more videos.